This is Rudowski of WeAreChange.org. I'm here joined by a very special guest, Rudy Dent, who's a firefighter. Can you tell us your rank and where were you on the days of 9/11?
Yes, I was a firefighter. I was also trained as a fire marshal, and I was a chauffeur. I came down here after the two buildings came down. I was off that day, and I got called at home, and we came in on recall. I reported to the firehouse. We got our gear. We commandeered a mail truck, and we made our way down here. By that time, both the buildings were down, and we were standing in the staging area, and I saw Building 7 come down. Prior to its coming down, the mayor, Giuliani, and the fire commissioner were missing. They were in the building somewhere. Nobody knew where they were, but they were missing for quite some time. They finally emerged out of the building, and then shortly after that, the building came down.
At 5:25 in the afternoon, of course.
Yes, yes.
Can you tell us where you were standing? Because obviously this is the Building 7 right in front of us on that day when it did collapse.
I was standing over in the staging area over by the river.
And was there anything you noticed or saw during the collapse of Building 7 that raised your suspicions to what actually happened here on that day?
Oh, absolutely. First of all, let me say that never in the history of history has a steel frame skyscraper ever come down because of fire. The simple answer to that is that fire does not reach temperatures hot enough to melt steel columns this large. And so that's never happened, ever in history. But that's the government story, okay? What I did see was a building come down on its own footprint, and it was a controlled demolition. Wow. A classic controlled demolition. And a controlled demolition is the product of 3 weeks or more of specifically placed, computerized and timed, a coordinated implosion that causes a building to come down at free fall in its own footprint.
Yeah. Was there anything else from your experiences down here that makes you question the events of 9/11? From everything you saw, everything you experienced, everything you went through down here, was there a lot of questions that you were left with?
Absolutely. First of all, I'm a Vietnam veteran. I did 2.5 years in Vietnam. Then I served as a police officer for 4 years. I was here in 1993 with the first bombing attempt. I stood shoulder to shoulder with the FBI while they foraged inside for little paint chips. And with a little paint chip, their forensics can tell you the make and model of a vehicle. And that's what I did. And I witnessed the immensity of that explosion. That explosion was designed to bring the building down. But according to the experts and the FBI who were there at the time, they said the van was not placed properly. Had they done so, they could have caused the building to come down, and that would have been ugly because it would have come down sideways and taken a lot with it. Yeah. The second time around now, it was a controlled demolition. Everybody's seen it. If you go back on YouTube, you can see the splits, you can see the explosions. You can see the antenna shooting straight up before it came down.
Now, a lot of people who have questions about 9/11 use the explanation that there was such immense heat, that there was molten kind of lava in the heat. Did you experience any of that?
No. We had guys in the building. They were calling for a hose so that they could mop up the isolated fires. They were in the building, and they were calling for additional backup. Yeah. So there was no concern about the fires. That's our job. That's what we do. I'm so proud to be a member of the New York City Fire Department because what we do is we depend on each other. We put our life on the line for each other, and that's why everything we do is based on an aggressive interior attack. Yeah. And that's why we're able to rescue people and bring them back, and that's why we're not afraid to go in, because we know our guys are going to pull us out.
Yeah. Now, obviously, you were here also with the recovery effort.
Yes.
Can you tell us about that and in your experiences being here after 9/11?
I worked that whole night, and if you look from this area all the way down to the horizon there, you see those tiny little people. That's how big it was. All of this was a pile of rubble. And as we crawled through the debris, I could see molten lava-like steel. I mean molten pools of lava. There's only one thing that can cause that. It's weapons grade thermite. Thermite is a product that produces the heat that turns steel into butter immediately, just like that. So there is so much evidence out there that it's an incontrovertible fact. Those buildings were brought down. But what the problem is, and what architects and engineers is all about, is bringing that news to the public, because the mainstream media has failed to do it. Yeah. The mainstream media has done the job of the individuals in our government who have betrayed a sacred trust and were part of that false flag operation, the same false flag operation that has kicked off the endless war on terror, which is an Orwellian misnomer. That's like war on dandruff. Give me a break. It's a slick slogan. Yeah. And what has happened? We've sent our sons and daughters off to fight these endless wars. We've created these ABC agencies that have promised us added security if we're willing to give up our liberties. Yeah. I think we've experienced that in the airports. Yeah. And Ben Franklin said, anybody who's willing to give up some of his liberties for the promise of security deserves neither. Our founding fathers were really smart individuals. They knew what was going down, and we are not taught what they were all about. We need to understand our history. We need to understand these things. Yeah. And it's all about our sons and daughters. It's about the future of our country.
Now, when you brought up the mainstream media, Jake Tapper of CNN recently came on air and said anybody who wants to question the events is disrespectful to the family members, to the survivors that were here on 9/11. What's your response to him? Because he said people are here protesting. We're actually here with Richard Gage of Architects and Engineers. He was out here. We're having press conferences. People are giving out information here. They said it was a protest that's disrespectful to family members and the survivors here. What's your message to Jake Tapper of CNN?
To Jake Tapper, I first of all, I think you should get another job because you're doing a disservice. Now, in answer to your statement about being disrespectful to the families, at the time that it happened, I was aware then that it was a false flag operation. However, I refrained from addressing it because of the protocols in the fire department where you don't speak to the media unless you have authorization, all right? And also it would have been inappropriate because people were grieving at the time. However, for him to come out and say that now as a member of the mainstream media is great news to me, and I'll tell you why. Because when they start attacking architects and engineers, it means that the mainstream media is feeling our presence and they feel the need to do damage control in order to protect their lie. So that's good news to me. So let him get out there and give us more negative press, because it has helped me to pass out the flyers by simply telling people here's the taboo flyer that he said is a no-no for you not to look at, and they scramble for them. So please bring more, okay?
Now, is there anything else you want to leave people with? Is there anything else you want to say about that, horrible day on 9/11? Is any last message to the people out there?
Yeah, for me, it caused me to wake up. It caused me to research this entire situation. And it's the first thing I think of when I get up in the morning, and it's the last thing at night before I go to bed. I lost Tommy O'Hagan, Kenny Kumpel, and Bruce Van Hines that day. And we lost 343 firefighters, and we lost more people on that day than we did at Pearl Harbor. That's something to think about, and people need to start doing their own research instead of relying on the mainstream media.
Thank you so much for all your amazing work and having the courage to speak out. It really means a lot. Hope you guys appreciate it as well.